and welcome to Off the Fence. This is our Cheltenham daily show brought to you in association with BoyleSports. As you can tell, this is a new look show for the week that is Cheltenham because, of course, we are doing fast-paced reaction and preview shows for you every single day. And we are currently recording this off the back of day 2. It was always going to be very hard to follow up on what day 1 produced on Tuesday. And the weather didn't help things today, Barry, but a quick check-in with you, because you were there with me on track. And for all, we've had an enjoyable day with some pretty good performances, I think, which we will get stuck into in due course. For me, it definitely felt like a bit of a lower day than yesterday. Is that fair?
It probably was. I suppose with Honeysuckle and Constitution Hill yesterday, it didn't live up to the same billing, but it probably was never going to. But I think the damp weather wasn't to help. But there was some very good results and some good performances too.
Agreed. There were, no more so than maybe in the first race. I think that was the one that I was most taken with, but we'll get to that shortly. Any quick check-in with you. Did you get to watch very much of it today as it played out?
Yeah, I've seen all the races once at this point. A bit of a punt and car crash today, but you will have that. But yeah, the race, as you've mentioned, it was basically impossible to live up to yesterday, but plenty of interest in racing, and we're only halfway there. At least I think we do now know where we stand with the ground. Both of you are saying it's raining there. It looks to be raining all day, so it'll probably be pretty slow surface for the final 2 days.
Yep, agreed. Let's rock and roll on to our review part of the show, and we will kick off with Energumene winning a second champion chase. Barry, it's straight over to you. You've been keen on this horse all season long, in fairness, and today it all came right for him at a place where we've seen him go so well in the past. But maybe I'm just, I don't know, picking holes in it because I tipped Edwardstone, but I can't help but feel that the race fell apart somewhat. But is that what a good champion chaser does?
Yeah, you could argue the race fell apart, but Energumene didn't fall apart. He travelled strongly, and even at times possibly too strongly. He was in Paul Townend's hand. He was running with the choke out a little, but that's just probably a reflection on how strongly he was going and finding it so easy. Editor Geraghty brought him a good gallop, but probably not the searching pace we would have expected. So maybe the run in Cheltenham had left a mark on him. Edwardstone, for some reason, he was beaten at halfway, was struggling all the time, could never get a look in, but the winner, you'd have to be very impressed by him. And for me, it was a better performance than he put in this race 12 months ago. So no, it was, ground probably came to a help to him as well, but no, the vibes have been good, and there was definitely a big improvement from what he showed in the Clarence House.
Do you concur, Tony, that this was a better showing than what he showed 12 months ago?
I don't know. I think he turns up basically all the time in the last 2 seasons and puts up these high 160s, 170s performance all the time, except the last day when I think probably getting in amongst horses was the thing that bothered him. I know he was held up in this race last season, but he had plenty of space. Yeah, the others didn't perform. Edwardstone didn't seem to be going from an early stage. He was losing half length at fences, and it left Captain Guinness, who was actually really strong in the market. I think he was 50s about 10 days, 14 to go. I think he went off a bit 14 or 15 kind of exchange SP. So, but Energumene obviously has a number of verdicts over him since his novice chase days. And yeah, things have come right from, I suppose, 2 consecutive champion chase days where the ground has come up soft, which wouldn't always be guaranteed, but very hard horse to knock with his overall consistency across all 3 of his seasons over fences, to be fair.
Yeah, and we love consistency in this game, so maybe I should just stop trying to pick holes in all of his wins. Tony, let's move on to the Ballymore. I touched upon it in the intro there. For me, this was the most impressive performance of the day from Impaire Et Passe, who was absolutely sensational, winning the race for Willie Mullins and co. The hype had been rife beforehand in regards to this horse, and it was proven on the track.
Yeah, good luck that he's their best novice hurdler. Facile Vega would have held that status for most of the season, but Impaire Et Passe took a really big step forward today on just his 3rd start in Ireland. Just visually excellent, put a long way clear of half decent horses. Looks like a horse that wouldn't have any issue come back to 2 miles if they want to match up with Marine Nationale. They can basically do what they want with them. One interesting facet of it was all the vibes have been really strong. Actually, massive late drifter. Someone didn't fancy him. Human or algorithm late on, I think they're off nearly 137 to 2, which I think you haven't seen that price around on him for at least 2 or 3 weeks. So, but defied that drifter win really well, and I definitely won't look forward to going on to Punchestown. But hopefully he could match up with maybe Marine National.
Just a quick final question to you on that, Ray. How disappointed were you in Goodland?
He just wasn't good enough. No excuses at all. Did everything right. Travelled there. Had no excuses. A little bit of squeezing maybe after 2 out, but the fact that he couldn't even get up for a place was disappointing. Possibly a point of that form from the Nathaniel Lacey isn't the strongest. So cool survivor. Going in the Martin Pipe on Friday, while theoretically he might look okay in a 140. I just wonder what the value of that form is. He's the first one out of that race to run, and Sander Clegane also coming forward from that into the Albert Bartlett. So would see it definitely was a knock to the form for me.
Right, Barry, what did you make of the Ballymore? How impressed were you with the winner? Were you as impressed as I am?
Oh, very much, Vanessa. No, great performance. You could see from a long way out, there was a bunch of horses, the fancied horses, they were all coming to the fore at the fourth last, if you like. But your eye would be drawn to Impaire Et Passe, travelled really strongly all the way. He was in Paul Townend's hands right down to the second last. Really impressive winner. Gaelic Warrior ran a good race in second. It was a proper solid race. And the cream came to the top, but he's definitely a horse with a future, and maybe he has the option of coming back to 2 mile. But I'd imagine maybe 2.5 might suit him fine for Punchestown, rather than try and take on Marine National, who arguably could be better again on better ground over 2. So but he's a horse. He's definitely very, very smart.
Very smart indeed. Now, Barry, talk to me about the Real Wacko winning the Brown Advisory. Watching that, I mean, I know we've said it about, lots of people have said it about this horse, but his ability to jump a fence, how much sort of scope he has, and how much he seems to enjoy it. I know his margin, it was obviously a photo finish with Jerry Colomb in the closing stages, but this horse, this was my, like, I love, this was my moment of the day, seeing him win, just seeing how much the horse seems to enjoy it. From a jockey's point of view, how much fun would that round of jumping have been?
Oh, it wouldn't get much better than that. He was brilliant, and Sam Twiston-Davies was firing him at fences. He was taking lengths out of the field. He did it in the Dipper against lesser company and was really impressive doing it. But he stepped up then in better company, up in trip. It was a brilliant performance. Sam, as I say, was brilliant on him, but jumped from fence to fence, and it was all about jumping. It won the day for him. Jerry Colomb ran a brilliant race in second, a little bit outpaced from 3 out, but finished really strongly. And to his credit, he lost very little in the feet and went down by the smallest of margins. But great finish, but through the race, yeah, you just love to see a horse do that. And no, I'd say it was a real thrill for Sam.
Barry, me and you didn't tip the Real Whack or anything like that, but in the closing stage, I found myself really willing Sam to hold on. Were you much the same? Because it must just be heartbreak if you have a round of jumping like that, but then get beaten on the line. I just couldn't have dealt with that heartbreak.
I know, it was a brilliant finish. I would be a Jordan Gainford fan as well, and a Sam Twiston-Davies fan. So I divided loyalties, but I was delighted to see the two lads battle it out. It was a good result.
About you, Tony? Did you do that as much as I did in terms of a jumping spectacle?
Yeah, just an excellent performance from the front from this horse. Like Barry said, the Elliott Brown just got a little bit out of pace. Well, the ground wasn't soft enough for him, but he just wants a little bit further. Braun ran really well for a long way. Just didn't seem to quite last home the 3 miles. Cutting back 2.5 might see him in a better light. So Gerhard ran okay to a point, but he just didn't seem to last out, having made a good move into it. But yeah, excellent performance out of the winner.
I know it's an obvious question, Tony, but would you see the winner in the second, Jerry Colomb, being Gold Cup horses for next year?
I suppose it depends what happens on Friday. Jerry Colomb, you would see, has been a horse that definitely be competing back in Ireland on soft ground. But the Real Whack has shown a liking for Cheltenham, which is a big plus, and his jumping is always going to be an asset. So yeah, I would say does Galloping the Jumps put his head over the parapet. Has been a real star on Friday, and he's still quite a young horse. But yes, of course, you'd have to be connection to be perfectly entitled to be thinking that way.
Absolutely. And Tony, I'll stick with you for a quick line on the bumper. A Dream to Share winning for John Kiley, JP McManus and the Gleasons. What a brilliant story to wrap up day 2. I just thought that was magic. And from your point of view, you were keen on this horse in our preview show that we did about a week or so ago. But then, of course, when we discussed this yesterday, you were worried about the ground. How did you play it in the end, and how did
Yeah,
you
didn't bet him now or anything like that. Was worried about the ground. The Willie Mullins horse did get a lot closer to him than he had done at the Dublin Racing Festival. And there obviously were negatives around the ground, and the jockey would have been a worry, his lack of experience at Cheltenham, but he belayed that completely. He seemed to know the right part of the track to be in. Patrick Mullins, in fact, the two of them were out the back and kind of a little bit wide, which seemed to suit, and coming late kind of also played in his favour. So, and the fact that he's not able to claim in these races, he's still a £7 man here. So that was excellent performance there, and I suppose the McManus team took a bit of a chance, perhaps keeping him on him, and he's very much rewarded them. To me, it looked quite a good champion bumper. Looked to be a well-run race, and the two of them made good sweeping moves in the back. So you would expect the form to prove quite solid. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him. He would have that flat pedigree that possibly going on the flat at some point would be an option. He's that relation to Reju and a few other decent ones. I think the Joseph O'Brien was attached to.
Barry, you'll know. I think pretty much everyone connected to this horse in terms of obviously the Gleesons, John Kiley, and obviously your relationship with JP McManus as well. Just expand on what a wonderful story this was for anyone who missed it.
Yeah, it was brilliant. John Gleeson, he gave him an absolutely amazing ride. You've seen some top class flat jockeys riding in the bumper, and you've seen some brilliant jump riders do it over the years. But to have done what he done on his first ride around Cheltenham on the biggest stage of all, drop it in, follow Patrick Mullins, come wide in the straight for the better ground all the way, waited, and produced, quickened by what was favoured at the time. So no, it was a brilliant performance for a brilliant trainer in John Kiley. The Gleeson family are lovely people, Brian Gleeson, and of course for JP to get a good winner like that, having bought the horse, but then having left John Gleeson with the ride, as Tony mentioned, with no £7 claim. So a lot of credit going to everyone on this. But I suppose John Kiley is a senior trainer, you could say, and a very successful trainer, and brilliant to see him back on the big stage with a horse like this.
Love it. It was a nice story to wrap up what was quite a damp day in the end. But we roll up to day 3. I believe that you were only halfway through, but we really are. So let's crack on with our Thursday preview. And Barry, we'll kick off with you in the Turners, where of course we get to see Mighty Potter at 11-10 with BoyleSports right now. Take on Appreciate It 4-1. Banbridge, be surprised if he ran if the rain keeps coming at 4-1. Balco Coastal at 10, Stage Star 10s, James the Burleigh 16s. Long just touched off for the Gordon Elliott team, but they'll be hoping to go they'll be hoping to place better with Mighty Potter. We spoke about this being their big. Was it fair to say, Barry, this is their big horse of the week, Mighty Potter, for that team?
I would have thought so. Yeah, and I think he's a worthy favourite. He should take the beating. Appreciated stepping up and trip is definitely of interest, but the handicapper has £10 between them on what he's seen today. So that is it's probably more of a gap than I would have put between them, but I would have Mighty Potter ahead of Appreciated. As you mentioned, Banbridge, I'd say there is a possibility he mightn't turn up with the way the ground is. And of the others, I thought maybe Balco Coastal would have a little each way chance. To me, he ran like a horse and possibly needed to run the Henry VIII. Obviously second to Jerry Kalam, who would have franked that form to a certain level today, albeit it was over further. But he could be an each way play. But Appreciated would be the main danger to Mighty Potter, obviously.
Do you think anything can beat Mighty Potter if everything goes right on the day, Tony?
No, I think he'll win this. The track would still be a little bit unknown after last season's Supreme, but I think there were probably other reasons for that. The vet was looking at him beforehand. He made a couple of bad mistakes, one particularly before he was pulled up. So, I think he's very much the one to beat here. I'd expect him to go off quite short. I mentioned, I think, on Monday evening about Risk Bell being one that was really hammered in the market at the Dublin Racing Festival. He was the other one that I recall been very, very strong late in the piece. And I just think he has too much ability for these other ones. His time performance and visual performance at the Dublin Racing Festival was excellent. I was just looking back at it there. He was nearly 1.5 seconds quicker than the Goffer, despite carrying £8 more. And the Goffer's run really well in the ultimate. I just probably not quite getting home off 149. And I would say the Mighty Potters actually raced quite inefficiently at Dublin in the sense that they went steady and then he really quickened from 3 out. I think cutting back and trip on slower ground is going to be no issue with him, and I'd say very much deserving of his place at the top of the market. Appreciate it. I know I was just a little bit disappointed with him in the Irish Article. Yeah, up and trip and slower ground would suit, but I just wonder will the younger horse have a little bit more pace from. I would echo what Barry says. The Balgo Coastal is one that could run into a place. Form worked out with Jerry Cheltenham, and I thought he wasn't totally at home with the track at Sandown. This place might suit him a little bit better.
Okay, little place pick on Balco Coastal then at 10-1 with BoyleSports. Tony, let's stick with you for a quick line on the Temps. Very open renewal, as we would expect. Thanks for the help, 5-1. Market leader Maxim 6-1, Walking on Air 7-1. The Bosses Oscar 10s, Good Time Johnny 10s. Bigger prices kind of thereafter, but very trappy contest. Tony, do you have a strong view in this?
No, I've no view at all in this really. I think the handicaps and tours that they usually aren't my cup of tea. A lot of English form on offer. The only thought I did have was that Good Time Johnny, who's still a single figure price, he's getting disappointed both the times he's run at the track. And Tony Martin actually said, I think, after the initial run that he doesn't really handle it. So he may be one you could possibly look to be against. Perhaps the Shoot First form would have a chance, even though Shoot First himself is not here via Untitled and Salvador Ziggy. But again, no, it's not a race where I'd be getting heavily involved in at all.
Yeah, shame not to see Shoot First in this. But Barry, the horse at the top of the market, thanks for the help at 5-1 for the Pipe Team. This is the horse that won the qualifier at Chepstow and still has a very progressive upward trajectory profile. Is he ripe for a race like this?
Potentially is. It was a good performance, and he has obviously more scope for more improvement. But there's plenty there. You can argue cases for, but have mixed form. Maxium was disappointing last time. Haven't been really impressive before that. But one that caught my eye was Mill Green. Another of Nicky Henderson's. Was third in this race last year on very soft ground. Was third at the Grand National meeting next to an entry. And it was third on its reappearance in Haydock last month. Is in tomorrow off the same mark as was third in last season. So there could be a little bit of each way value in Mill Green.
Okay, each way shout. We like that. Barry, we'll stick with you for a bit of Ryanair chat. Shishkin here at 5-6 currently with BoyleSports. Blue Lord 11-2, Janadil 7-1, Fury Road 10s, Envoy Allen 12s, French Dynamite 20-1. Bigger prices for a few after that, Barry. Basically, as we've spoken about plenty on this show, is the bottom line just that if Shishkin shows up in his Ascot form, he wins this by any distance he likes. If he's not in that form, it's up for grabs for anyone. That's the way I see it anyway.
Probably have to agree, yeah. He was very impressive in Ascot. He appreciated stepping up and trip. He jumped brilliant. He did everything really well on that day. It was soft ground, but probably tomorrow, there's a chance tomorrow could be softer, which may be a slight negative for him. But what could you pick that's going to beat him? If he reproduces that, even if the ground was to take the edge off him, I still think he's good enough to beat the opposition. Possibility, you could say, for Janadil, but you'd be worried about the turnaround from Goran to this race tomorrow. So no, I'd be very strong on Shishkin. I think he's going to be very, very hard to beat.
Tony, am I stepping into sort of mad territory to suggest that Envoy Allen could pick up the pieces and place in this race?
I think so. I think your initial read on is dead on. If Shishkin does turn up in the form of Ascot or all his initial early runs over fences, he's going to be very hard to stop. I do think it is a doubt. The softer ground is a little doubt. He didn't love it in the Supreme when it was officially heavy that day, if I recall correctly. We talk about the bounce factor. Basically, my always interpretation of the bounce factor is when a horse runs fast and returns within a relatively short space of time. That's when the bounce factor can kick in. And he certainly did run fast in Ascot. He might have won easily in the end, but the time was fast and he had a hard race in that sense. So I do think it is a concern. And he's backing up quite a bit quicker than he was from Ascot to Cheltenham last year, the race, like 5 or 6 weeks later. So that is a worry. I am going to try and oppose him here, though I do see he's drifting out now. He's nearly even money. He hasn't been that price for a little while. Although finding something to beat him, as Kenny have alluded to there's a lot of horses with holes in them. Horses coming off bad runs. I suppose Blue Lord would fall into that category, at least a dip in form the last day. And the trip on soft ground would be a slight concern with him. Horse on a downturn like Jack and Perchois, horse that possibly a bit of temperament like Fury Road. I think Janadil is one that would very likely run his race. Really, in fairness to him, the only horses that have beaten him over trips from 2 miles out to 2.5 miles when he's completed in recent years have been an Energumene and Allaho, albeit they've beaten him a fair old way. So you would think that he'd be involved. So interested in doing something with him, around him in the place markets to the each way markets. And also there's one there, I think is overpriced a little bit anyway, is Ga Law or GA Law. Like he's the one horse in the field that's the young horse that's coming up. He missed a chunk of time after his novice chase season and then ran a really good race in the entry before winning the Paddy Power race in November. Now that has turned out to be a really strong piece of form with Paul Nicholls' horse Il Ridotto and Dan Skelton, the horse that won a race on New Year's Day. Now initially when I looked at Doncaster, I thought that maybe Doncaster put a ceiling on him. He was coming to definitely be involved in the finish before he fell at the last. Or I'm not saying he was going to win, I'd say he was late odds against, but he may well have won. But the trainer actually a really interesting comment there. He said that he had 2 quick runs there early in the autumn and then he left them off basically completely for December. So I was just wondering, like, did he need the run in Doncaster? And if he needed the run in Doncaster, that opens up a bit more of a ceiling for him. Soft ground is kind of an unknown with him, but the fact that he ran over 3 miles the last day and they were thinking about a Grand National for him might help bring his stamina into play. And he's always one that's ridden with a bit of restraint, so he's probably going to be ridden for pace. So I'm definitely going to have something on him each way now without the favourite. He's nearly the outsider of the field. He's the one horse in it, I think, that has potential to do better against a cast of horses that I think have shown enough for ages at this point, bar the favourite who is top class, of course.
Okay, case to be made in each way. Case to be made for GA Law then at 20-1 or Gala, whichever way you want to put it, as Tony says. Let's move on, Tony, to the Stayers Hurdle, an open renewal, but we know what the ground is now. It's going to be soft for them. Blazing Khal 3-1, Teahupoo 7-2, Flooring Porter 11-2, Home by the Lee 6-1, Classical Dream 8, Gold Tweet at 10s, and Paisley Park 14s. Those are the top few in the market with BoyleSports, Tony. Confirm your Stayers Hurdle thoughts now that we're here the eve before this very open and, as you corrected me in the past, Tony, deep contest.
Teahupoo has no excuses here whatsoever. This is just he has got the perfect setup for this now. He's proven himself at least to a strong degree on the ground last time in the Galmoy. I think he's got the best piece of form in the Hatton's Grace. I think Classical Dream is a better horse over 2.5 miles. He's a really good horse, fresh, and he was able to beat him. And I thought pulling away from him at the end, I think he's improved for going up and trip. He's now got the slow ground. I think last season in the Champion Hurdle, a couple of people made the point he just didn't fire in the spring last year. Maybe the Gordon run last season took the edge. I thought he didn't handle the downhill part of the track. Now, when it's slow ground, they aren't going as fast downhill. I think that's going to be a help to him. I'd be very disappointed if he's not involved. Look, Blazing Khal has to have a chance. The vibes have been really negative in the last fortnight of the game, but look, I don't like reading too much into them coming from that yard. Flooring Porter, again, he hasn't had a great season in terms of preparation. I think the race is stronger than either of the two he's won. Just the things haven't gone ideal from this season, and I suppose people are wiser to his front run tactics at this point. Classical Dream, I just don't think he has the stamina for the trip. Home with the lead, the ground is probably gone against him a little bit. French horses are a little bit unknown, especially this one that's been supplemented in. But I think Teahupoo's got the best form of the horses from around here, and I'll be disappointed if he doesn't go very close.
Case made for Teahupoo then in the Stayers. Barry, over to you for the vibe would not have sort of filled his backers with too much confidence in the last few days, but he is still up at the head of the market. Does he deserve to be there, really?
Well, I suppose he's there on potential, but it is an unknown. Teahupoo has proven form, as Tony mentioned, in the Hatton's Grace, and I'd echo a lot of what Tony says as regards him and the opposition. Blazing Khal, as I mentioned, potential, but he still has to prove it at that level. For me, I'd see Teahupoo and Blazing Khal being a little bit clear of the remainder. I think, as Tony mentioned, Flooring Porter, his two wins. I think this is a stronger race this year, and I would see Flooring Porter play Classical Dream, Home by the Lee, Paisley Park, Gold Tweet. I'd see those maybe just a step behind the two at the head of the market, and probably you'd have to, for me, go with Teahupoo with the proven form. But Blazing Khal, he's 4 from 4. He has a lot of potential. Maybe he's a superstar, but we won't know that until tomorrow.
Fair. Okay, 2 votes for Teahupoo. Then on we go to the plate, Barry. So Scottish, 4-1 favourite for JP McManus and Emmett Mullins. Ilrodotto, 7-1. Horton Calor, 8-1. Midnight River, 8s. Fugitive, 10s. That's All Right Gino at 10s. Ferrero Bamboo, 11-1. This So Scottish, everyone seems to have latched onto at this stage. Is this a case of a classic JP McManus, shrewd trainer type sort of handicap gamble at the festival?
It has the potential. You know, JP has purchased him since. He is a 6-year-old, looks progressive, good form, obviously behind Boot Hill in Ascot. But the bulk of his form, or most of his form, is on good ground. So the first question he'll have to answer is, can he cope with conditions tomorrow? So that's going to be interesting. For me, the horse I figured out was Ferrero Bamboo, who was 4th in that race in Ascot over 2 miles, was 3rd in the Grand Annual last season behind Global Citizen. Made a desperate mistake at the second last that day. That was obviously very soft ground, so he's going to cope with conditions, but has been competing over 2 miles, and this is his first step up to 2.5. Looked flat to the boards all the way in the Grand Annual last season, but still managed to get involved despite making that mistake. So I think he's an interesting one. But I'd have a concern about the favourite just on this ground.
Interesting. It was just like Venetia Williams. When the rain comes at Cheltenham, she always has something up her sleeve with one of these horses in these sort of races. So I can definitely see the case for Ferrero Bamboo in that sort of cliche type way. Tony, do you have a particularly strong view in this race? It's another trappy handicap with lots of English form.
I think bookmakers need to do an offer on this race. You pay a double if you back the winner. It's absolutely impossible having the hope.
I love that. I enjoy that. Thanks. Yeah, we will put that to the bookmakers. Come on, BoyleSports, step forward. Tony, we will stick with you for the Mares Novices Hurdle, running in the memory of Jack de Bromhead, of course. And you made such a valid case for Magical Zoe at 12-1, Tony, when we did our preview, just the betting above her. Of course, Luccia is the 6-4 favourite for this race. A lot of joy, next best 11-2. You wear it well at 10-1. And Magical Zoe in here at 12s. Tony, are you still with her? Make the case for her for anyone who missed it, if you are still with her.
Yeah, I love this race. I think this is a brilliant race. Really enjoyed studying this. I'm going to have 3 or 4 bets in this race, win only, and try and get this favourite beat. The main 2 will be Magical Zoe and Halka de Bear. Just start with Halka de Bear, actually, because I put her up in the column back before she ran at Fairyhouse in January. Initially disappointed with that run, but thinking back, I wasn't in love with the ride that she got. I thought Davy Russell didn't go hard enough in front. That's the actual diamond form. I think going maybe back left-handed, stiffer test, bigger field, she'll be able to take a lead. I definitely think she has a chance of just getting into this now without a penalty. Probably going to back her again. Magical Zoe, in case you get from last week, I just thought she was visually brilliant the first couple of days. Then she went to Down Ryle and seemed to cope fine with the soft ground there. She possibly really wouldn't want it totally soft or too soft, having gone through the summer last season. But the Down Ryle form just stacks up. She'll be I think 4 or 5, 125, 130 mares in behind. I think she has to have a chance. They'll be my main 2. There's 2 other ones down the field. I'm also going to have something on. She could be anything. Trimby Gordon Elliott now. She's pushing out for treble figure price there in some places. She ran behind Impaire Et Passe in the Moscow Flyer and made the run in that day. She just totally hated that. 2 miles around a sharp track like that. They didn't go any pace. She jumped terrible. I think it was just a run that you can forget because it just was completely unsuitable. And then she went for back to Punchestown for a mare's race up in Trip, but there's a bit of a pace on this day and she was able to sit in and take a lead. But she got to the front actually too soon this day, kind of half a mile from home. Looked to be going best turning in, and again just kind of got knotted on the line by Hoturia, who'd been played quite late. So I think she has a bit of potential, again being held on to. And this is a race where it does suit to be held on to, as I think I described in the other preview, like a mini county hurdle. You don't want to be up there early, that usually doesn't work out. So those would be one. And the other one I throw into the mix is Jatara. She's kind of a stayer at this trip. Yet to win over hurdles, but her 2 hurdles runs have been excellent. Good run at Christmas at Leopardstown, where she seemed to take a knock halfway and probably did well to finish second in the circumstances. And she's also tying in with the Halkidou Bear form. So yeah, I'm going to have a bit of a go at this race with a few of the prices and try and get Luccia a bit. And Lotte Joy, who yeah, I don't know, she has the flat form, but is her hurdles form really anything special? And I thought she was waiting in front in Leopardstown a bit at Christmas. I just wonder now in a finish how tough she is.
Tony having a serious go, I think it's fair to say, at the Mares Novices. Barry, and he's aiming to get Luccia beat, but over to you. Is she beatable?
Well, the favourite in this, you could argue a case is opposable, and it probably history would show that. It definitely suits one to come from off the pace, and a strong traveller can be found out. She is a very strong traveller, shows a lot of pace, has form on soft ground, was probably more impressive in Newbury first day over hurdles than she was in Exeter, but she only did what she had to do. I think if she's ridden with restraint, ridden patiently, she's the best mare in the race. I think she will win. But the one I had picked for an each way was one that Tony mentioned, Jatara, who was second to high definition. Permian was third in that race and was an impressive winner since. She was then went on with second to Astro Diamond in the Solarina in Fairyhouse. She gets the £5 allowance off the favourite and those who have won. So that's definitely a positive for her. She's from the family of Jeski, really strong pedigree, has form on soft ground. So she was one who was a real interest each way. But I think the favourite is the best in the race if things go right for her.
Okay, the boys agreeing on an each way shout there then. Barry, just a quick line from you on the Kim Muir to wrap up day 3. Stumptown 7-2, Mr. Incredible 11-2, Angel's Dawn at 7-1, Dunboyne 9-1, Beauport 10s, Royal Thief 11s, A Night in Lambourne 14-1. Oh, I mean, this is a bit like what Tony said about the other race. Surely just trying to pick the winner of this, that we do deserve double payout. I don't know where to start with this Kim Muir, to be honest with you. Amateurs too, nightmare.
Yeah, I was in Gorham for the Triestis, and I thought Dunboyne put up a big show to be second to Carefully Selected, and it was nip and tuck. There was very little between them. The 5th horse, Espinito Bello, won the Leinster National since then, and he was 10 lengths behind them. So a reproduction of that run in Gorn, I think, would put Dunboyne bang there. Obviously, that was on very soft ground, so conditions won't be an issue. Stays really well, which is you need on the new course. So no, my choice would be Dunboyne, and he's probably an each way price.
Okay, Dunboyne as an it's about 9-1 currently. Tony, finally, then, would you have a view in this race? I think I might know that the answer is no. Is it?
No, I'm afraid not. No, I will definitely have used these handicaps on Friday. I've been looking at those, the market type in the county, and there'd be much more my cup of tea. The Kim Muir can stay where it is.
Yeah, fair. Right, on that note, we have wrapped up our preview of day 3 of the festival, but now we can head to BoyleSports ambassador and Gold Cup winning jockey Robbie Power to see what he fancies on day 3 of the Cheltenham Festival.
Hello everybody on Off the Fence, it's Robbie Power here, BoyleSports ambassador. Day 3 of the Cheltenham Festival, the feature, the stayers herd, and I'm all about Teahupoo. The rain has fallen, the ground is soft, and I think he's got a massive chance. Obviously Flory Porter and Blazing Khal are big dangers. I just think Teahupoo's form is that bit stronger. I think he'll take a lot of beating. The Ryanair Chase, Shishkin. This ground definitely won't be ideal for Shishkin. I think he's opposable at a very short price. Main fancy to take him on is Blue Lord, but I wouldn't rule out Envoy Allen. I think he's in good form and run a big race. Heading in Robin's team are in mighty form. The day starts off with the Turners, 2.5 mile novice chase. Mighty Potter is bound to go off a short price favourite, but I think this is his toughest test. He's got the likes of Appreciate and Banbridge. On this ground, I think Banbridge might struggle, but Appreciate could be a big threat to Mighty Potter.
Thank you very much to Robbie Power, the BoyleSports ambassador. It's naps time. I think it is time to do the naps. We will go to you first, Tony. What is your nap of day 3?
Teahupoo in the stairs hurdle.
Oh, like it. Okay, great. And over to you, Barry. What's your nap?
Well, I've been with Shishkin since before Ascot, so I won't desert him now.
Okay, and everyone, I don't think you're allowed to nap up a really short price horse. I feel like that's a cop out, but Mighty Potter, if he gets beat, Oh, that will set a negative tone for the rest of the day for me, I'm afraid. He is my nap on day 3. But for now, everyone, boys, thank you very much as always for your contributions to this show. Viewers and listeners out there, thank you as ever. We do want to hear from you. Do get in contact. What do you fancy? What don't you fancy? Do you agree with what Barry and Tony have said? Please do get involved, get in contact. We love your feedback. But for now, that was Off the Fence, brought to you in association with BoyleSports. Join us again this time tomorrow.